Welcome back to Mona's Take. I am your host, Mona Rose, and we are here to talk about everything reality TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything I have coming up. Today's video, we're going to talk about Big Brother. We got some live feed action last night for the first time in 2 days. So we have a few things to cover. Almost back to getting into the rhythm, but we still only have the five house guests in the house. But we do have some rumors going around about Terrence and what he did with the veto. So stay tuned. We'll jump right in. Alright, so it starts a conversation with the five in the house. They're all playing bumper pool upstairs. And Jasmine says, alright, I want to give y'all a scenario, and it's really been bugging me for a couple of weeks now, and I really got to figure it out, so I'm going to see if y'all can help me figure it out. Somebody that left the house told me that somebody in the house had a crush on somebody else in the house, but that somebody else was unavailable. Well, their minds go to working, and right away they're like, it had to have been Indy. And she's like, okay, yeah, it was Indy that told me. And so they're like, well, who would have told Indy that they had a crush on somebody? Who would have been close enough to Indy? So they come to the conclusion that it's Joesph. And they're all saying that Joesph has a crush on Alyssa. That's the only thing it could be. Because he's not going to talk about the married women, because Jasmine and Brittany are married. So it can't be them. It's got to be somebody who may not be available. So it can't be a married person. So Michael and Monty run with this. Oh, it's Joesph. He's got a crush on Alyssa. That's what it is. That's why he wants Kyle out. And they're going on. And they know they're just playing on Jasmine and Taylor, because we all know Taylor's crushing on Joesph. I actually think Joseph's crushing on her too, but we'll see. But so they come to this conclusion. So all night long, every once in a while, you would hear Taylor say, I can't believe Joesph has a crush on Alyssa. Do you really think Joesph has a crush on Alyssa? So the guys have got both of those girls going. And they're loving every minute of it. And it was actually funny to see. And then about that time, the feeds cut again. Like these feeds, for most of the day yesterday, last night they got better, but for most of the day, they would be up 5 minutes and be down 10. Be up 5 minutes, be down 10. Be up 10 minutes, be down 10. It was like, quit cutting the damn feeds. I don't know if it was they were talking about stuff that, you know how they talk about sponsors, say they can't say Nike or Adidas, or they can't talk about movies or this or that. I think it was that kind of stuff that was going on, but it was annoying as hell. But we finally got the feeds back yesterday and last night, and they stayed back. So, I am going to start this out by saying that I don't always believe what comes from this person on Twitter. But Spoiler Girl on Twitter has said that Terrence used the veto on Turner, took Turner down and put up Kyle. I have someone that I talked to that I've kind of been networking with on Twitter since I started this channel, and I really trust them. And so I sent her a message and said, hey, do you actually believe this stuff that's going on Twitter? Because Spoiler Girl hasn't always been the best resource, the most trustworthy resource. I remember in years past her coming up on Twitter, and I remember some of her stuff that was just absolutely wrong. Or something would happen and she'd come on an hour later and tweet about it. Like it was her, like she was outing it for the first time. So I don't necessarily know that I trust that source, but I trust my source. My source said that she reached out to someone and they confirmed it. So maybe Joesph has a fighting chance to be in the house. Like I said before, Terrence has two ways to go with these wall yellers. He's either going to believe them and say, Kyle's trying to mess with my mind, Kyle's trying to manipulate me, and I'm not going to let it happen. Or he cannot believe what they're saying. This could be a part of Terrence and Kyle's plan to say that Joesph was the one that outed the alliance, but they have to get it off of Kyle's back. So they have to get all suspicion off of Kyle's back before they go back in the house. And Terrence and Kyle have talked about not letting it be known that it was him that gave Terrence that information. So I see this as it could be a plan between the two. Say, okay, if I've got Kyle on block, Alyssa's not going to vote Kyle out. I don't think Turner's going to vote Joesph out. So you're going to come to a 1-1 tie, and the responsibility is solely going to be on Terrence to cast that last vote. And I think he will send Joesph home. That's what I'm thinking right now. If he doesn't believe them. If he believes them, then Kyle will be the one going home. But I think it's still the same scenario where that final vote is going to come down to Terrence. So we'll see when the feeds come back on how true this all is. And again, this is speculation. None of this is confirmed. But I have a feeling that if we see the show on either Wednesday or Thursday night when they show the veto ceremony, I have a feeling that if he did not use that and it's still Turner and Kyle on the block, spoiler girl will be done. Because nobody in this community is going to trust anything she says again. And like I said, I vividly remember in years past, she wasn't always the best resource. I know that her and Spoiler King went at it several times. She would come for him and say that he wasn't telling the truth on something, and then we would see the show and he would be telling the truth. So I don't know that I trust that source. We'll have to see what happens come Thursday. Or hopefully maybe Wednesday night, since they're doing 2 evictions on Thursday, they'll go ahead and give us the veto ceremonies Wednesday night with the veto competitions. We'll see. The next conversation is between Brittany and Michael. She goes up to talk to him in the HOH room. And he's taking a bubble bath. He has a swimsuit on, but he's taking a bubble bath. And she says, I can come back. And he's like, no, I don't mind. If it's not weird for you, it's not weird for me. Let's chat. So he's soaking in his bubble bath. She's sitting on the couch. And they start having conversations. And she says, talk me off of this ledge if it's a ledge that I need to be talked off of. Now, I immediately thought she was fixing to throw Monty under the bus and say they needed to get Monty out. I was like, oh God, do not screw up this week. But she didn't. She said, Jasmine's been on her best behavior this week. And everybody in the house has really enjoyed Jasmine this week. She has laughed. She's funny. She's not complaining about anything. She's cooking some for them. Monty's cooking for them. They're taking turns. Jasmine's been a whole different person. And I think that if Jasmine would have came into this house and not had Paloma, Amira, Alyssa, Indy, I think we would have seen a different game out of Jasmine. I don't know if she still would have been hurt and milked this whole thing this whole time. But if she didn't have that Mean Girls squad, I honestly think that she could have played differently. But they're saying, she's been on her best behavior. We've really enjoyed her this week. And she's always saying what a straight shooter she is. And I really don't think that coming at her with all these accusations and coming at her in an aggressive manner and saying, this is why we're voting you out, because you did this. It's like, I don't think that it's the best thing. It's not setting right with me and my stomach. And she said, what is your opinion on us just being real with Jasmine and saying, look, this was the plan all along. Even if there had not been a split, you would have still been the one going home this week. And it's just because you aligned with different people than we did. It also gives Brittany a chance to let her know, Jasmine stalked her this whole game and said she has no clue what's going on. She walks around the house oblivious, da-da-da. So this will give her the chance to let Jasmine know that she was a part of a bigger team and that she was in the know a lot more than what Jasmine thought she was. But Brittany's saying, we've got to think about jury management at this point. And I think if we come at her in an accusatory manner, then that's not going to set well with her when she goes to the jury. But if we're just open and upfront with her, she said we don't have to tell her about who all's in the alliance or anything like that. We just have to tell her that we've been working with people, that she aligned herself with the other side of the house, and that she was always going to be the next to go. And Michael agrees. He says, I don't have a problem with that. He said, I think that she would appreciate that more if we were just upfront and told her that she was going. No, they can't come right out and say because of contract, you're going home this week. Or I'm not voting for you this week. Or I am voting for you this week. Per their contract, they can be vague, but they can't come right out and say who they're voting for or who's going home. So Michael said, we can just tell her that we know about the girls. We know about the five swatters. We know about old school. You continue to lie to us about the stuff, but we know about it. We know you were a part of it. And you just aligned with the wrong side of the house. And unfortunately, it's your time to go. So they're thinking that she'll appreciate that more. And she can enjoy her last few days in the house, knowing that she's going home on Thursday. But they would say, they can't say you're going home. But what they'll say is, I can't promise you that you have my vote. That will tell her that she doesn't have their vote. And it's weird because I've never heard that until this year. I've heard people saying, I'm not voting you out, or you've got my vote to stay, or you're going home this week in past seasons. So I don't know if that's something that they've added recently, but several of the house guests have talked about the fact that they can't say you're going home or I'm not voting for you. They can say I'm leaning towards not voting for you, but they can't come right out and say it. So anyway, that was something that I found odd. They said, she's always saying she's a straight shooter, so let's be a straight shooter with her, and I think she'll appreciate that. And she said, Brittany said, we just need to get Taylor on board, because, Taylor likes her little digs and her drama, and she does, but it's warranted. Taylor deserves to be able to, I'm not going to say seek revenge, because that's a bit harsh, but I think she has a right to stick it in people's face that were so ugly and mean to her the entire game. Be like, I'm a part of this group, and I've been in the know, and you're just on the wrong side of the house. So I think that gives, Taylor a little bit of happiness. I know it would make me. It would me. I'm vindictive. I would do it. I would be all in. But that's me. And Michael said, well, if she doesn't want to do it that way, then we let her talk to Jasmine, and then we'll talk to Jasmine afterwards. And we're just going to tell everybody, you can handle Jasmine however you see fit. But this is how we are going to do it. So you can do it with us, or you can do it on your own. Whatever you decide to do, that's your game. But this is how I'm doing it. Brittany said, I just don't see the need in a big production, accusatory manner, that you lied to me about this and you lied to me about that. And I don't think that's necessary. And she said, I'm just not on board with it. And Michael said, I messed up that. Okay. So Brittany says, we also have to figure out how we're going to handle Terrence. Because when he comes back in the house, he's going to be pissed. Now, I was kind of doubting the fact that Michael talked to Terrence to give Terrence a plan of what to do. Because I hadn't heard Michael say anything about it. Now, he did say something to Brittany last night that I found odd. He said, I told them not to put, what did he say? Something to the effect that I told them that big targets need to be taken, and I was talking about Alyssa, but if they took it as getting rid of Joesph, then I'll have to explain what I meant, and go from there. So he didn't come right out and say that they had a conversation, but it sounds like he did talk to Kyle. It sounds like Kyle's mission over there was to make sure that Joesph went home. Michael has not said that out loud on the live feeds. But by him saying what he did and stumbling over his words the way he did, I believe that he did have a talk with either Kyle or Terrence, or both, about what to do this week. So Michael may be running more of this than what I gave him credit for. I know when I talked about Joesph running the show, what I talk about there is Joesph is good at manipulating. He uses his looks, his charm, his friendships, and when he speaks, people just automatically listen. It's like, oh, Joesph is speaking. The girls, he's got them all bamboozled. Brittany is the only girl in that house that has not fallen all over themselves for Joesph. And it's easy for Joesph to get in their ear and make suggestions. He never comes right out and says, this is what you need to do. But he'll make suggestions and engage them in conversations and then go back and tell the leftovers what they said. Some of what they said. He leaves out bits and pieces if it has anything to do with him. So that's what I meant by that. I will clarify. So I guess that Michael is running the show more than what I thought he was. Michael says it doesn't matter because at that point when he comes back in the house and he sees that Monty's not gone, he's going to know that we're working with Monty. Well, I don't think that Michael expected Kyle to blow up the whole alliance. I think Michael expected Kyle to do what he could to get Joesph on the block and out the door. But I don't think he anticipated that Kyle would be such a dumbass that he would out them all. I don't think Michael ever thought that would happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how Michael handles Kyle, if Kyle's the one that comes back in the house. If Joseph's the one that comes back in the house, I fully see him getting with Taylor and Monty and Terrence and Turner. And I see him going after Brittany and Michael if he gets HOH. I see him trying to push for a Brittany and Michael HOH if he's not HOH or on the block. So if Kyle comes back in the house, he's done for. He's going to be a target for everybody in the house. That's why Michael wants him to stick around, because he's a shield for Michael and Brittany. They're going to go after Kyle before they go after him. They're going to go after Alyssa before they go after him. They're going to go after Terrence before they go after him. So those are people on the other side that shield Michael and Brittany right now from being able to go on the block. And remember, Michael can't play HOH this week. So he's got to depend on the people in his alliance to keep them safe. They laugh about Jasmine's crush story and said that they think that they're going to keep pushing that Joesph is attracted to Alyssa, because that's going to keep Taylor stirred up. That's going to keep Jasmine stirred up. And if Kyle's in the house, it's going to keep Kyle stirred up. And Michael said, I'm going to keep pushing it because Taylor would be the woman scorned and on the warpath. They don't know that. They don't know right now that Jasmine thinks it's her. But the more they talk about it, Jasmine's going to end up saying something if it keeps happening during the week. I think Jasmine will end up either confiding in Brittany or Taylor. And then I think Brittany and Taylor will tell the rest of them. On a side note, this conversation between Brittany and Michael went on forever. Like, he had to be a prune by the time he got out of that bubble bath, and it had to be cold as hell, because they talked up there for a good hour. During that conversation, I realized Michael is more loyal to Brittany than Brittany is to Michael. You remember I told y'all that Taylor came to her and said, is it going to be hard to get Michael out at 5? We're going to have to get him out at 5. Because if we don't get him out at 5, then he's going to just win through the end competitions. And if we want to make it to the end, we got to get him out of here. So remember that whole conversation. This whole time, Brittany's talking to Michael about Kyle and Terrence and Monty and Taylor and Turner and everybody else. She never once mentions this conversation that she had with Taylor. And I'm thinking, well, maybe she mentioned it when the feeds are off. But that's not the case, because if she mentioned it when the feeds were off, Michael would be going after Monty. He would be like, okay, no, I'm not sending Jasmine out. I'm sending Monty out because him and Taylor are trying to get me out. That would give him an excuse. So I don't think that anything has been said at all, which means that Brittany's either keeping that in her back pocket for later, or she's actually entertaining the thought of getting Michael out at 5. If that's the case, I hate her. I'm just going to say, if you've got someone that is so loyal to you that they're going to take you to the final 2 over anybody in that house, you don't throw them under the bus. Because if I'm Taylor, and we get down to the final 3 is Monty, Taylor, and Brittany. If Taylor wins, she's taking Monty, because she knows most of the people in that jury wanted him out. If Monty wins, I don't see him taking Brittany. He might, because he might think, I'm going to beat her, I'll win over her. It may be Xavier, Derek situation. But I don't see it. I see Taylor taking Monty, Monty taking Taylor. Turner, I think he would cut Brittany at 4. If Michael goes out at 5, Brittany's going out at 4. That's my prediction. We will see. They say that they're not convinced that Monty doesn't have something with Turner. And that Monty talks more game to Taylor than he talks to them. Now, the game that he's been talking to Taylor is about Monty. Let's see, the game he's been talking to Taylor about is Monty, Taylor, Brittany, Michael, Turner, final 5. Then getting Michael out at 5. He's not going to have those conversations with Michael and Brittany. So no, he hasn't been having as much game talk with her, with them, as he has her this week. I'm just like, yeah, you're right. He has been talking to Taylor, but don't make it seem like him and Taylor have something, because they don't. I honestly think that Taylor right now, other than Joesph would be her number 1. I think she would protect. But I think if Joseph's out of the house, she's protecting Brittany. I honestly think that her loyalty is going to lie with Brittany. And then Brittany says, I really believe in my heart and soul that Taylor is committed to a final 3 with me, you, and her. That she will protect us if need be. That right there told me she hasn't said a word to him. You're telling this man that someone who just told you they wanted to get him out is committed to a final 3 with him? Bullshit. So Brittany's playing the game. To me, loyalty is a big thing. And sure, you're in alliances and you protect each other and you can change alliances or whatever. But when you're as close as Michael and Brittany have been this whole game, and Michael has watched out for her this entire game, he picked her as a bestie. He knows he can win competitions. And she's going to turn on him. I don't like that. That's my opinion. I think it's shit. And hopefully she'll go home before 5. If that's the case. They talk about being at the bottom of the 2 sides of the house. And right now, it looks like the 2 sides of the house are going to be Monty, Taylor, and Joesph if he comes back. And the other side are going to be Kyle, Alyssa, and Turner. So they're like, we're at the bottom of both of those packs. No matter which way we go, we're at the bottom. And Brittany says, well, if we're at the bottom of both of them anyway, why are we letting them choose who we go with? If we're going to be at the bottom of both alliances, then we should choose who we go with. And Michael said, okay, that's a good thought, but how do we do that? And then the feeds cut to Taylor and Monty. So I have no idea what that conversation ended up like. Taylor tells him that she's talked to Brittany. Or no, she asked him, she said, have you talked to Brittany about what the end game would look like? And he says, no. He's like, you talking about the final 5? And she said, yeah. He said, I haven't gotten to that yet. I would like to, but I don't want to start stuff and cause any distrust because I don't know how she feels about cutting Michael. He said he's not sure. He says he's not sure how deep that relationship goes and if she's ready to receive the information. And she said, yeah, she's ready. The same way I showed you that I could separate the difference between relationship and game, she's also separating the two. She doesn't want to be carried to the end. You're going to be carried to the end no matter what, unless you're winning. And she's not a comp beast. She's won one veto with her and Michael, and she's won one veto on her own. Do I think she's smart and she can do the do I think she's smart and she can do the mental comps? Yeah. I think she'd be good at that. But I don't think she's going to be good at any physical comps. And we all know the final three, the first one is endurance. Always. So I think you're going to be carried to the end no matter what. In my opinion. Because you're not going to win that first one. And if you don't win the first one, you're probably not going to win the second one. And if you didn't win the first one, you're not going to beat that person in the third one. So either way, you're going to be carried to the end. Taylor's telling him not to be afraid to have that conversation with Brittany this week while there's nobody else in the house. He has to do one-on-ones, so that would be a good opportunity for him to actually sit down and have that conversation with Brittany. Now, if he sits down and he has that conversation with Brittany, and she doesn't tell Michael, then I know for sure she has no loyalty to anyone in the game. And if you think that gets you to the end, and it does, more power to you. But I see it getting you to the jury faster than getting you to the end. Michael said, or Monty says, you know, it's not rocket science. When it gets down to 6 people, everybody gets to play in the veto. And we've already seen what Michael can do in these competitions. He can win his way to the end. But I'm hoping that there's maybe a comp in there that he's not so good at, that maybe I can slide in and get something. He said, but he's proven he's a comp beast. They talk about all the comps that Michael's won and how he didn't need to. He's won comps when he didn't need to, which is put a bigger target on his back. But I see Michael as a super fan. I don't see Michael throwing a comp. I see him always trying what he can. These comps are iconic to him. He's watched them for years. I think once he gets into the comp and gets into being enthusiastic about it, I think he forgets about what he's doing and he goes for the gold. And he wins most of the time. They made a point that every time he's not won HOH is because it was his week not to compete in the HOH, because this is the second one. And that every time he's played a veto, he's won the veto. He's got like 7 comps now, I think, under his belt, and we're halfway through. Taylor asked him if he struggles with the integrity part of the game. And he said, yeah, I struggle. And she said, how so? And he said, I'm not good at lying. He said, when I was HOH and everything blew up afterwards and Daniel confronted me in front of everyone, he said, I'm not good at lying, so I tried to deflect. And he said, I never had conversations with any of the house guests about it because I can't look them in the face and lie to them. He said, so I just acted like it never happened. He said, I'm not going to say regret, but I wish I would have been able to sit down and kind of throw him off my scent. But he said, I'm not that person. They talked about not trusting Kyle anymore and that the showmance was his downfall. They talk about Paloma's alliance, and he explains to her how it came about, and how everything went down, and that he had all of these people coming to him, Amira, Daniel, Nicole, Jasmine, Indy, and I forget who else he said. But he named off all the people. And he said, I've got all of them coming at my ear telling me Taylor made Paloma cry. Taylor said something rude to this one. Taylor said something rude. And he said, and I thought if so many of the people in the house were saying it, that it must be true. And he said, I really feel like the biggest asshole in the world, which he used a different word that I won't use here, but basically he feels like the biggest ass in the world because he didn't think that Paloma was going to explode like that. He had been working with Paloma, so he couldn't see Paloma saying something like that. So it was more like, let me tell you what Taylor lied to me about, because he believed in that other side so much. So, we're getting a little bit more game talk from inside the house. I'm sure there's going to be more today because I was thinking yesterday was Tuesday when I told y'all that they'd probably start having the one-on-ones today, or yesterday. I was thinking it was Tuesday all day. So, I think they will start having the one-on-ones today. Monty really doesn't have to. I think he's going to pretend to, and that's going to give him an opportunity to have one-on-ones about the big picture to Michael, Brittany, and Taylor. And that Jasmine will think that it's just him pretending. Unless Michael and Brittany do go with their plan and just sit Jasmine down and be honest with her. So when they have their one-on-ones, that might happen today. And I think we'll see a different side of Jasmine. I don't know. I think right now she's enjoying the house. She's enjoying the people she's with. And it's forcing her to actually spend some time with Taylor and Brittany and see that they're not bad people. That they're actually good people, because she doesn't have everybody else in her ear. But I think that once she sees that it's her going home, I think she's going to be sad. Because Jasmine is a super fan. Jasmine has watched this show for a long time. And her dream was to be there. So seeing that dream come to an end and her going to the jury house, I know that she's going to be sad. But I'm hoping that they do it today so that maybe they can lift her up and they can actually spend some quality time and she can enjoy the last few days that she has inside the Big Brother house. Instead of her going on the block thinking Monty's going home on Thursday, only for her to go home and then not get to enjoy those last few days, if that makes sense. So, that's all I have for you guys today. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Comment below. And as always, much love.